Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Whispering Willow Farm. It is a lovely morning. The weather is starting to cool off a bit, which is certainly appreciated around here. I am so ready for the fall. I came out to the garden this morning to try to get everything watered. We have a really busy day. We actually have family coming in town this weekend to help unbox some stuff and kind of help get our house in order. A little bit. We have just been crazy for the last few weeks, as you guys know. But I'm seeing lots of my starts pop up. I really want to show you guys. Look at all these blossoms starting to come on these beans. That's awesome. Our beans that we planted are actually starting to come up too. So that's nice. I've got a lot of weeding to do. The grass just grows so quickly. Oh yeah, we've got a lot of beans popping up. Look, that's awesome. I haven't been watering as regularly as I should, just because we've been busy. So I am really encouraged to see a lot of these popping up already. I'm trying to see what else I planted, what might be coming up. Look at that little guy. That's sweet. She's got some volunteer zinnias here, which were what she had planted here for the summer. We have a bunch of our radishes popping up back there. Slowly but surely things are starting to pop up. That's the hard part too, is you plant it and that's great, but then you have to make sure that you water regularly. Oh, I see a little beet coming up. Okay, I see a lot of little beets. That's encouraging. I was like, I'm not seeing really any of the root veggies aside from the radishes coming up yet, but it looks like they are. That is certainly one thing too. Putting the seeds in the ground is the easy thing, right? It's making sure that they get watered regularly, especially when it's super hot. And when you've planted your root vegetables, I found with my carrots, they really prefer to be good and wet for that germination to happen. And that's one of those things that I've been trying. As hot as it's been during the day, it's still peaking up to, high 90s. And so I've been trying to make sure that I water twice a day, but the soil dries out really quickly. It's really sandy based soil. And so I'm not able to water it enough where it's really like getting down deep, if that makes sense. So I feel like I'm having to water quite often. But that's okay. I am seeing, like I said, lots of beans pop up. So that's encouraging. Hi, little bees. There's so many beans. I've still got a few beds to clean out, which is something that our family that are coming in this weekend plans on helping us do. Just finished cleaning out some stuff. Nathan actually went and got me some soil to plant my Greenstalk for the fall. I really just had this vision of my Greenstalk sitting on the deck coming off the greenhouse. And so I put crappy soil in there last summer, and then I re-put some better-ish. I put some mushroom compost that I knew was kind of a gamble. Wasn't really sure how it would do, and honestly it just didn't do that well, if I'm being completely honest. And so he was able, now we have new co-ops that we're able to kind of find. He was able to find me this Fox Farm, which is actually really good potting mix. So this is like a seed starter mix, but I think it'll do pretty well. And so they're expensive. That's the only thing about this brand. 3 bags costs quite a bit. So I don't know that I will move forward doing this because when I think about the cost, it would be, if I use this for my seed starting mix, I might buy this and mix with like a different soil. I want to open it up and see what it looks like. Super fluffy. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of like perlite in here. Y'all see that? Yeah. So I think it'll be really good in the Greenstalk, but I still think I'm gonna mix it with something else. Jess has some Bacto potting mix, which I still think she has a bag over here, which is what she actually used for her Greenstalk and for her seed starting. And it is a potting mix, not a seed starting mix. So potting mixes typically have a fertilizer in them, where seed starting mixes don't. So if you pot up or something, you have to add it. So just putting a straight seed starting mix in the Greenstalk is definitely not a good idea. Yeah, so here's the backhoe. So it's just an organic premium potting mix, and so I know that that's what she's used. That's probably what I'm gonna end up mixing in. Hello, Rose. I'm actually gonna cut sunflowers in a minute. Oh my goodness, y'all, look at this. Plants are stinking resilient. Last time I came in this greenhouse, I got attacked by a wasp and came running out. Do y'all see that okra plant? Look at that. That is hilarious. I bet this was just one of her starts that fell. Look at that. I mean, we can harvest that okra. That is so funny. I think plants are the funniest thing. They're resilient. Anyone who says, I can't grow food, that is proof. I mean, that okra plant grew through gravel and is producing a really good, decent amount of okra in the middle of this greenhouse. Hasn't been watered, nothing. I think that is so cool. I have so much vision for this space. I really kind of want to make this like my outdoor office in the winter time. I will obviously be starting seeds in here, but this is not enough space in here for me to start my seeds. Also, Jessica had a lot of issue with her plants getting leggy, and so she talked to me about those things before they left. And I told her I really wasn't that worried about it because the bulk of the seeds I'm going to be starting at a sale and go into our garden, I will still be planting in my seed starting greenhouse. We just have to get that moved over here. So this space I will use for probably microgreens. I will use it kind of as an outdoor office. And then I'll use it to come in and like demonstrate and keep some, but I don't plan on putting seedlings up on the top because that's where she started having a lot of problems. They were getting too hot because there wasn't enough, I guess, barrier from the top shelf maybe to where that plastic is on top. And so she was having quite a bit of issues in here, but she said that all her starts did fine when they were just on this little row. And so I think that's what I'm going to do. We're just going to play around and figure it out. I will put some starts on the top just to kind of see for myself what it is doing, and maybe I can kind of narrow it down and utilize both spaces. Also thought it might be cool to separate, right? And so maybe start all of my vegetable starts in the seed starting greenhouse, things that I'm not starting as much of, maybe like herbs, some flowers I could start in here, and just keep them separate. So this is the flower greenhouse, that's the vegetable greenhouse. And so I'm trying to get some vision. It's been too hot really to come in this greenhouse. It gets pretty warm in here, but I can sneak out here in the mornings because it's a bit cooler. And so I got to get some things cleaned up in here, but I think it's going to be a really pretty space. I have not been in the cottage garden at all because it's just crazy. Look at these cosmos. I may actually pick some of these and put in my bouquet as well. It's got some roses over there. I really wanted to go over there and look at the zinnias. Look at this beautiful color. I love these colors. This like pink. And then I definitely want to put some of this in a bouquet. This is a tropical milkweed, and I think it is absolutely stunning. Look at that. Look. Speaking of, this is why you grow milkweed, is for monarchs. And look at that. That is stinking awesome. This is also just really pretty. My goal in here has been to let most of it die because then it'd just be easier, and then kind of start weeding and pulling out a lot of stuff, thinning it out. She does have dahlia tubers over there. Those will be staying. The rose bushes will get trimmed and they will stay. She's got like some elephant ears along there. Those types of things I'm going to be keeping in here. But as far as just the stuff that she planted, the zinnias, the cosmos, I planted some carnations in here. That stuff will get ripped out because it just gets covered so easily. So she's got perennials in here that you can't see because morning glory is so invasive. And so I'm trying to figure out the best way to go about that. I actually really love the morning glory that has grown up here on the fence. I think it adds a nice barrier, but it's hard because it chokes everything out. So underneath here, there's beautiful asparagus that should be coming back every year, but right now it's just being choked out. So I definitely need to figure out what the best option is for this. This is this beautiful keystone rock bed. I really want those herbs, and I want this to be the designated kitchen garden. And so those are things that I'm trying to figure out how I go about. Do I kind of grow less flowers in here and just really focus on kitchen herbs and bushes and things like that? And so I grew Morning Glory one time at our old farm, and I vowed that I would never grow it again. I grew it the first year we lived there. On the 4th year, it came back every year and choked out everything. But it is, like I said, you guys can see, it's like this beautiful covering. And so I love that, and I wish that I could find a way to just have it cover the fence and not take over the other beds. And so I'm not really familiar with Morning Glory that much because I grew it the once and then vowed never to do it and was stuck trying to get it all to quit growing forever. And so I don't really know what I'm gonna do there. I'm trying to play around. I just know that it's really invasive. It's taking over all of those herbs that she's planted. They're under there somewhere. And so I am just really trying to think through and do some research on the best option for that. And so we'll see. That's something I'm gonna spend my time this fall and winter researching, figuring out the best option. Speaking of research though, y'all, that PEAT situation caused quite the stink. The last vlog, I had a short moment in the greenhouse in the high tunnel where I'd mentioned I was going to amend the beds with peat moss because it was so dry. I'll be honest, I had no idea what I was getting into when I made that comment. So y'all know we prefer to do things as organic and natural and eco-friendly on our farm. And whenever I had mentioned that I was planning on amending those beds with peat moss, we had a flood of comments, of emails, of people reaching out on all different platforms saying, how dare you? And we actually really appreciate your guys' input. And so I was like, whoa. I grabbed my cup of coffee and sat down at the table the next morning, and I told Nathan, I was like, I think I missed something. Like, let's talk about this peat moss situation. And I guess, and I hadn't talked through that with Nathan. It had been kind of, someone had come out and looked at our soil and was like, hey, I really think this is kind of the best thing you need to do. And so I hadn't even, had a chance to really talk to Nathan about it yet. And he's like, I could have told you, and he starts explaining to me the things that he knows about peat moss. And so we have spent the last few days doing research, realizing, okay, wow, that is really not a sustainable option. The soil quality in there is just really low, and that is something that Jess and Maya expressed to us. They had been, spent the entire last year trying to fix it, and although they have done some improvements, we're both just kind of scratching our head on why is the soil quality so low out there. We're really trying right now to work with someone to bring some azomite in. It just adds all those trace minerals back into your beds, and that's what we're planning on doing for the raised beds, is to actually just add azomite and try to slowly add those trace minerals back into the soil and amend it that way. I am pushing pause on the peat moss. I hope many of you are happy to hear that. Obviously, we want to do things the sustainable, eco-friendly way on our farm. And I honestly just didn't understand all the negative things that were associated with peat. So I do appreciate you guys bringing that to my awareness. And I think that this is the beautiful thing about what we do, about sharing our lives on the internet through vlogging, and honestly, aside from that, just having a community of people. I think this is why it's important, because I'm still learning. Many of you guys are probably still learning, and one thing that I can have higher education in, I may have lower education in another area. And for me, soil is one of those things that there's a lot that goes into soil. There's a lot that goes into amendments and soil quality that are honestly kind of over my head, and I keep trying to dive in and learn more about, but it is certainly that. It is a learning process. There's a lot that goes into making up good quality soil. And so I love that I'm in a place where I get to learn something new every day. I love that I'm in a place where you guys get to teach me things that I don't know, and I get to teach you guys things that maybe you don't know, and it really is a beautiful thing. So I really do value your guys' input. I value the fact that I get to wake up every day and I get to learn something new on my farm. Even though I've been gardening for years, even though now I have a much bigger space to garden on, it brings me joy that I get to wake up every day and learn. And I hope that you guys see that. I also hope that this is something that you guys can take with you. It doesn't matter how long you've been gardening. It honestly doesn't matter how long you've been farming. You could be selling vegetables. You could be, you know, way further than me in this gardening farming game, but you still have something to learn if you're willing to be taught. And I think that that's what I've always tried to adapt the mentality of. I always want to be a student to what the garden has to teach me. I always want to be willing to listen to what someone else has to say, because I don't know it all. I don't claim to know it all, and honestly, I don't want to know it all. I'm okay with just gradually learning and growing as we go. But I do appreciate you guys talking through us about that whole peat moss situation. Happy to report we're not going to be moving forward with that. We're trying to find a more sustainable option. But I do think that if we can all stay in a place where we're willing to be students. And right now I can reference this to the garden. I want to be a student of the garden. I want to listen to you guys if you know more than I do. But also I just want to be a student to life. You know, like there's so many valuable lessons that you just learn no matter how old you are. And I think that that's just a really good principle to live by, is keeping your heart in a place where you're willing to learn and you're willing to be a student no matter how long you've been doing whatever it is you've been doing. But I have got to get busy watering because it's going to be a pretty busy day around here. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I'll talk to you soon.